everyone, I'm Nadia, and today we're talking about one of the biggest problems in fleet operations: how maintenance teams can reduce downtime, stay ahead of repairs, and make their shops run more efficiently. I'm joined by Nicole Cooper, CEO of Squarerigger, a fleet maintenance and management platform built around real shop workflows and decades of fleet experience. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into bigger maintenance challenges, could you tell us a little bit about your background and the story about Squarrigger?
Sure. Well, my background is in high tech. I spent 25 years in telecom and different technology platforms, including a network as a service business. My parents started Squarerigger over 40 years ago. I joined the company only 2 years ago. I spent some time off and came back to the business that I grew up with to help my parents, who were getting older, kind of take over and modernize the company. I realized after a very short time, this was an industry that really needed help. And what my parents had spent the majority of their lives doing was helping fleets become more efficient, make things easier for them. My dad wrote the original software program back in 1986. He was visiting a trucking company that was an ag hauler in Central California. And the owner of that trucking fleet had a real challenge with managing maintenance. And back in the 80s, there wasn't a ton of software out there to do this. And so my dad taught himself how to program and wrote the original program. Over 40 years, they spent listening to fleets, being on the shop floor, listening to the challenges, building the software over all those years to be the platform that it is today. When I came on, I realized pretty quickly that we had to modernize the existing software to be more current with other software that's on the market. And we wanted to give fleets the comprehensive workflows that they need with a really light touch feel. We wanted it to be as easy for them as ordering something on Amazon. So I set out with my dad to put a plan together to rebuild the company, to rebuild the software. And 5 months into that journey, my dad passed away unexpectedly. He was definitely the technology head. He had the domain expertise in the company, and I had to make a decision at that point. Was I going to close the doors, because that was pretty much the choice that I had, or I was going to continue to build this on my own? So I made the decision to rebuild the company and to rebuild the software. And 18 months later, we have a live platform. And I have enjoyed every minute of getting to know our customers, getting to know an industry that I grew up in, but I wasn't really part of, and continue to build on what my parents started.
That's a beautiful story. I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm very happy that you continued on that journey and look at where Squarrigger is right now. That's
Thank you.
amazing. So, moving on to some fleet maintenance problems. When you look at fleet maintenance teams today, what are the
Mhm.
biggest challenges they're dealing with?
I think the biggest challenge they're dealing with is the time that they have to spend doing things that aren't related to their actual job. They spend time answering phones or chasing down parts or updating dispatch or working on an old system or clearing things on whiteboards. And they really want to be spending more time turning a wrench and being a technician. I think that, the challenges that we're seeing are, and the core business problem that we see is downtime. Every day that a truck is down can cost $800 to $1,000 for a fleet. And that's top line revenue that a fleet owner would rather have in their pocket than be missing out on. And so, the challenge that we're seeing and that we're trying to solve ultimately is that downtime. And They could have downtime from not having a part in stock because they weren't aware they needed that part. Or a truck has come in and it needs scheduled maintenance, and no one knows that it's sitting over the weekend. It's not going to be ready on Monday. So they have to switch a load, and that costs them money. There's a lot of challenges. I think there is a lack of connection between their data, and therefore that causes an additional amount of downtime. So if the dispatcher doesn't know when that unit's going to be ready or that it's coming in for maintenance, they may schedule a load, and it's going to cost them a whole lot of time to have to reschedule that. I think that knowing when your unit needs repairs or knowing when it needs maintenance, and being able to proactively deal with that is something that is something we really, really are trying to solve.
And how does that currently look for them? Why do they not know when the repair is going to happen? How do they manage that right now?
Today, sometimes the shop manager and the fleet manager don't even know that the unit is up for repair until it comes back in, because they're not aware of what the odometer reading is, or if there was some type of diagnostic trouble code that came in as a failure. They're not aware of it until the unit is actually in the shop. So there's no way for them to proactively plan around loads or ordering parts or making sure that you have the right technician there to do the repair.
So, why do they still rely on paper, spreadsheets, whiteboard, or those disconnected systems? Is it because that's comfortable, or they just feel that the change would be a big risk?
I think that change is really hard for anyone. And I think, what we're hearing from the shop manager or even a fleet manager is that the disruption that it would take to stop what they're doing, get a new system, train all their technicians who may or may not use it is just not worth it. They're not seeing the value there. And I think that, today people like to just keep doing what they're doing. They don't think it's broken until potentially the fleet owner realizes how much this downtime is costing them.
What does a strong maintenance workflow looks like from inspection to completed repair?
From inspection, whether it's a DVIR or it's actually an inspection that's done once the unit comes back to the home shop, an inspection that has something failed should trigger some type of work request that then someone can turn into a work order. And there should be some level of prediction in there that says these are the parts that you're going to need. And this is how long it's going to take. And this is when your unit's going to get back out on the road and start generating money. And if there's a lot of delays along that workflow process, it costs the fleet money.
AI is a big topic right now. Where is it actually useful in fleet maintenance, and where does it become just hype?
I think in fleet maintenance, we can use AI like another person on staff. And I think that the fleet owners are really demanding a certain level of information about their fleet. What's the cost per mile? What units are costing me the most amount of money? What technicians are best at doing a certain type of repair or service? And I think that type of insight is something that should be used in fleet maintenance. I think there's a resistance to it right now because everyone's afraid that it's going to take their jobs. And the reality is that what we are using AI for is to help bring that information to the fleet so that they can make good decisions and they can use their skills that they've learned along the way to be able to actually run an effective fleet. So, we're not doing AI in that we're trying to replace anything. What we're trying to do is layer AI on to be something that can give you more information to act on.
In your opinion, if a fleet feels overwhelmed today, what should they fix first?
I think that the first thing that a fleet needs to fix is their own process. I think they need to really take a look at how much time is being wasted and figure out, how do we cut out some of that time? How do we replace some of the manual things that we're doing? How do we replace some of the admin that we're doing? And really look at their process. I think that's one thing that we can do as a company is, we've always been a small company. We've always been very much into trying to help our customers, trying to figure out, how can we help you operate your business more effectively? I'm not trying to hand you some software and walk away. What I'm trying to do is help you with your process and give you a tool that aids in that process change. And a lot of fleets are scared of this. They've been doing things the same way for so many years. And, one of our biggest challenges is getting the technicians to actually work in the software. A lot of times they're using a handwritten work order, they're not documenting anything. And the fleet manager, who's an expert in fleet operations, is spent doing admin work. And so, if there's a way to change even that one part of your operation, your technicians are going to be happier. Your fleet manager is going to be using their skills to actually manage the fleet, manage the shop, keep your trucks on the road, keep your fleet and your drivers safer. Then you're going to have a much better operation. And whether you're using Squarerigger or you're using any software tool out there, you have to start with looking at your operation and where you can cut out admin time. Where can you cut out waste? How can you do things more efficiently? Because small changes add up.
What is the biggest mistake fleets make when modernizing maintenance?
I think for a larger fleet, the biggest mistake is using a tool that's too heavy. It's potentially more of an enterprise tool, and therefore you won't get the adoption from the people that are actually on the shop floor. And so oftentimes we're called in after a fleet has made a very large software purchase because it was the safe thing to do. When I was in my prior industry, everyone always said no one got fired for using AT&T, when AT&T might not have been the least cost option or the most efficient option. And I think that a lot of fleets think, I'm going to go with this company that's been around and has this very expensive tool. There's tons of bells and whistles, but the reality is that they may not need all of them. They need something that people will actually use.
So, what makes Squarerigger different from other fleet systems?
I think what makes ours different is truly how easy it is to use. We rebuilt it from the ground up. We went screen by screen. We tried to make it as clean as possible. And we tried to give experiences for different roles within a company. It's not a one size fits all solution. If you're a technician, you're going to be looking at a technician screen. You're going to be focused on work orders, what's coming next, what's overdue, how do I close this out, how do I move on to the next job. If you're a dispatcher, you're going to go in and you're going to see, when is the unit going to be actually ready for me to dispatch? When can I schedule a load? If you're in accounting, you're going to see, where are my costs coming from? Are they going into my TMS? Am I looking at how I'm billing my customers? What are my labor prices versus my labor costs? So we've really tried to create it from the user perspective and give the full functionality that you need to operate your job, but the lightweight feel so you'll actually use it. I think about all the fleets that I talk to, and when they come to us, they're looking. They know they need to modernize. And I think there's a shift right now, specifically around modernizing, because there is so much awareness around AI and how it helps you. And I think that one thing that we noticed is that fleets will invest a lot of money in their in cab, in unit technology. But when it comes to the back office, it kind of stops there. And I was kind of scratching my head. Why aren't they investing in what keeps the truck out on the road, what keeps the trailer running? And I think it wasn't so much about the investment, it was more about how difficult it is to switch. Fleet managers are fearful for having to go to their technicians and say, look, we're going to give you another system. Maybe they gave them a system in the past and it didn't work. It was very difficult. They didn't want to be tied to a computer. They don't want to leave their bay. And so part of what we did was we made sure that our software could be used from any device. So if you have a browser and you have a smartphone or you have a tablet, you can put it in a hard case, put a magnet on it, put it right onto anything right there in your bay. You never have to leave the bay. And I think that when we help with that transition to say, this is actually going to make your job easier, this isn't coming from the fleet manager whose perspective is, I don't want downtime. I don't want to lose $800 a day. And the technician might be thinking, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. The me problem is, I just want to do my job. And if I need a part, I want that part to be in stock. I want to be able to not have to actually walk over to the parts room, look on the shelf, or pick up the phone, talk to the parts manager. I actually want to have something that right then and there I know, yeah, it's an inventory. No, it's not an inventory. So I didn't just spend half an hour walking to and from the parts room. I think that that is probably the biggest consideration that we had when we rebuilt this software. And I think it was the consideration that my dad had all those years. And the 5 months that we got to spend together, where he was training me before he passed away, if I heard anything from him, he said the technician has to be able to use it. You have to be able to have something that the people actually use, or you're wasting your money. And we just tried to improve on that. So with Squarerigger, you can use it from any device. Do you want to have a kiosk? Do you want to have a tablet? Do you want to walk out to the yard and do an inspection with your phone? And if something's actually broken, you can take a picture of it and it's in the software already. How much time is that going to save you instead of having a clipboard with check boxes on it? So, you know, we've tried to design our software to be a tool to help the process. 70% of the work that's done is done in an outside shop. The snowball effect from that is that invoices come in and a human has to enter them. And it probably takes them 10 to 15 minutes per invoice. And one thing that we built in almost immediately was the ability to take a picture of an invoice, drag and drop it from a computer. And we use AI to go in and scrape that document and put all of the information on the work order, including all the parts costs, all the labor costs. So we're cutting probably hours and hours of time of labor and using that resource to do something more important in the business. So that's one example of one of the things that we do to make things easy. Um, every single fleet that has their own shop orders parts. They want to be able to know, hey, which part is an alternate part? I have a part number, but it's not always called the same thing. They spend hours with part suppliers trying to track down what that part is. That's built into our software. It makes it super easy for that parts manager.
What does the conversion process look like when fleets go from whatever software they were using before to Squarerigger?
Well, we spend a lot of time doing discovery. We want to understand from a fleet, what are they using today? What's broken? What do they like about what they're using and what they don't like? We go through and we really try to identify the roles and the current process, what they want to keep and what they want to get rid of. A lot of companies are using a combination of an old software and some manual tools, spreadsheets, paper, different things that aren't working for them anymore. So we spend a lot of time in the discovery process. We start with a kickoff call. We get to know all the stakeholders. Then we move into training and we train people depending on what their role is. Once we get through that portion of it, we go ahead and we upload all of their data, all of their fleet information, their units, their parts, any history that might come out of an existing software that they have. And we actually give them time to use it and to play with it and to give us feedback. And then we come back through, we do one final training, we set a go live date. And if it's a larger fleet and they want us to come on site and be on the shop floor during that process, we'll be there to answer their questions. We're a small team, we're US based. They can always pick up the phone and call us. We give them a lot of options. We have a customer portal. They can chat with us. Anytime they need support, we're here to provide it. We want a smooth transition and we want to support that fleet into the future as they grow.
And how does Squarerigger reduce downtime? Is there any downtime during the go live process?
We set the go live usually for a Monday morning. We will work over the weekend to do a final data conversion so that Monday morning when they come in, they're ready to go.
If you had 30 seconds to describe what Squarerigger is, what would you say?
Squarerigger is your new operating system. It will be your source of truth for everything. Everything starts and ends in Squarerigger, from the inspection through getting you back out on the road. If you have an over-the-road breakdown or you have something that happens when you're not in your home shop, that information is going to flow between the service provider that you used and your home shop. Everything is going to be there for you to be able to reference all of your equipment history, all of your parts history. It's going to be your best friend. It's going to give you insights into the past and give you information about how you deal with your fleet in the future.
I think that was a little bit more than 30 seconds, but we're going to take that. Don't worry. How has being second generation leadership shaped the way you think about the company and the customers?
I think it's made me a lot more sympathetic to the fleet owners that are out there that are second and third generation and the challenges that they're faced with modernizing. Even though we're a technology company, I was faced with a software that had been around for 40 years that I had to modernize, a company that I had to modernize. And I'm very sympathetic to those challenges. I think that I connect with those owners really well because I understand what it takes to run a business. I understand the challenges that you have with employees and with people that have been with a company forever that are really scared of change. And I think that I connect with the fleet owners. They know they can call me, they can email me anytime, that I will be there for them, that we have been there for our customers for 40 years. We have customers that have been with us for 40 years, customers that have been with us for 20, 30 years, and that we're going to continue to be here. We're going to be here for them, not just me, but my staff, that we really care about the customer and their success.
That's a really long time.
It is a really long time. And I was really compelled to carry on this legacy after my father passed away. And I had people call me and tell me, I worked with your dad for 30 years. I would call him, your company built your stopwatch module because of me. I beta tested it. Your dad would put the software on my server. We were the guinea pigs. And over and over and over again, people calling me to tell me how my dad and my mom had been through all these technology changes with them. And that's why they stuck with us. And it was really important to me that we continued to take care of people and that we helped make people's lives easier. That's our goal, is to give people back more time, to make life more manageable. to give you more time to be with your family, with your friends, not working 10, 12-hour days, but actually working a normal day because you have systems that work for you. You're not working for them.
For the end, what would be your advice for any fleet that is considering a change?
I would say don't be afraid. This is something that's going to massively help your business. It's going to help your employees. It's going to help your bottom line. It might be tough in the beginning, but choose a partner that's going to be there for you. Choose a partner that truly cares about you and your operation because at a certain point, all of the features that are in software, you're going to go and you're going to shop and you're going to be confused. This one has this one has that. What about this? And what about that? And you're looking at cost and trying to figure out what if I pay less? What will I get? At the end of the day, all of these features will converge. And what you want as a partner, because change is going to be hard. But if you have the right partner to get you through it, you will be successful.
Thank you, Nicole. That was really insightful. I love the conversation, and I believe everyone who watches this will absolutely love the conversation as well. For anyone who wants to learn more about how Squarerigger helps fleet modernize their maintenance, you can visit squarerigger.com and request a demo over here with Nicole or the rest of the team. And I'm absolutely sure you will love it. Thank you again, Nicole, for being here and having this conversation.
Thank you.